Thank you for being here. This is a mini, as much as mini as possible, extra bonus session on the pop-up paradigm, um, and why in some ways. But yeah, so I'm joined with Sarah Davies, and it's a really it's about why decision making is important and what can be created when we have an idea and we've studied things to do with mental fitness, heart driven leadership skills, and somatic work, and all of the result of being able to do that thing without deliberating too much.
Too much. So I just want to know, Rory, how, why did you decide to do this summit?
Oh my gosh. In a nutshell, um, it goes with there's the communication piece. I'm going to be an example of listening in for the golden nugget and not trying to over explain things. Communication was so important for me because I didn't know or believe I knew how to communicate, as um, dyslexic, uh, finding that out and getting qualified in dyslexia at 33. But before that, I was just frustrated, resentful with systems. And even if I was okay with it, I wasn't okay with it. And I couldn't explain why. And I didn't have the terminology, but I just kept on having great ideas. So I've always wanted to share my ideas. But I've always the communication, the collaboration piece. So I'm the kind of person that has to work with others, but also couldn't communicate how to maintain the relationships I wanted either. Or I was in relationships that had bad habits, and those bad habits I didn't know, didn't hadn't done any training in how to break past that or say, look, taking a stand. We can grow out of this bad habit. This is a bad habit, and the relationship would just drift away,
Mm,
or or it's faster or slower. It was. I didn't have much choice. I didn't have the choice whether it would go faster or slower away, and so communication, collaboration, and actually studying all of this from my again, we've all got different business models. We can all do different things. I wrote a book, but I don't focus on that as my business model. But it actually is a representation of how I can have these reflections and write them out and just put a book out in my own way. So that's what that was. But some people design a book for specifically meeting a target need and doing all the business side of things and do that really well. If someone's
mm,
hyperlexic, then do that. I'm prolexic, not dyslexic, which is I love words, but I don't necessarily blend into what how other people would understand words. I'd make stuff up all the time. So I'm making new words like reflection, which is reflection in action, which is what I'm doing right now, and staying present and that self-command muscle. So I, again, presence is everything. It's the first pillar of NeuroCreative Leadership as part of plasticity power, which is
mm,
owning our plastic, adaptable but strong, and building on what we focus on. So without going off on too much of a tangent, it's owning ourselves in our thoughts and feelings and how we mold our physical and mental to suit what's important, which is collaboration and communication. That's what I would say.
yeah. Oh, I love that. And I can absolutely, I can sense your enthusiasm for that. And by the way, I will always love your new word. That they're a gift to the universe in my world. And actually I'm curious as to why you've called it a pop-up, Rory.
Um, it's a pop-up because I really like that word from the 80s. Like it's it's like surprise, you're watching a video that and some of those adverts were terrible because they were having people buy into like refined sugar or whatever it was. It's like, hey, 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 and it's all designed to get people hooked on things. So let's get hooked on amazing information that just lands for people in the moment. And so the pop-up idea was based on also that it was really important to not overwhelm and try to get things fixed and sorted. I tested out a full summit when I was doing leadership trainings in 2022, and and I I couldn't tell you how much anxiety I was going through because of it stretching me in the first place, having me shaping me design and choose something that was way out of my comfort zone deliberately so that I could learn what was possible to create in those circumstances. But now I don't have to actually put myself in such crazy containers to do even more with less and more relaxation because it was not relaxing at points, but I had to practice how to relax in those situations, which again was all amazing back then, but I was like, I can't, I'm not ready to do that. And because I knew the steps now, because it's like you don't get someone that can't read and write to write a book straight away, and force them to unless they want to, and they challenge themselves and they grow with it, then that's fine. So for me, this pop-up is all about embracing um natural strengths that it was possible, showed you it's possible to do without and going okay, every single part of this I've just gone, this is what it is, this is what I'm doing today, and this is and every single bit has like fallen into place. So the person that was going to talk about inspired decision making could that I had in mind couldn't do it, so now we're doing it here, and now it's like um an example of what can be done instead in the moment, and this will be ideal for using as a bonus talk about the why of the summit going forwards as well. So that's what I woke up this morning when there's a gap, but the gap is the gift. The gap is in the gift, and just little stepping stones every single day to uh, and yeah, there's a lot of already practicing speaking with people. There's already a lot of practicing doing some kind of online events and systemic background stuff. But the tools have just come in to play with the way my brain works at this point in my life as well. It's like all this time was like, when's the technology going to keep up with my brain? And now it can. So that's great.
Oh, wow, Rory, there's so much great stuff in what you've shared just then, and I just want to pull one thread through it, if I may, which is this idea of you internalizing all that learning from that leadership summit that you had to do in 2022, knowing how that felt in your body, which is, very much one of the threads that runs through this summit, but also that you're providing bite-size chunks of information in each of these talks that don't overwhelm, give people a taste, maybe fire something in their brain. But the biggest thing of that is your leadership in action of learning by doing, and how, whether that's bringing the learning from 2022 into today, or and then across this last span of a couple of weeks, that you've really embodied that learning by doing.
Thank you. Thanks for the reminder. Yeah, it's also the sense of that I wanted to do a full summit, full being whatever that meant, at the start of this year. But I learned that I could commit to it and it can be whatever it looks like. And so then the one in May will be longer talks with longer designed trainings based on the feedback from all the speakers and experts who want to redo it and redo it again. And so we build on something. For me, it's the longer game, but not waiting. And and it's the longer game as a vision in action with whatever it gets to be shaped as along the way. And as I've done that and not thought about anything other than the next step because of it set the event time, and then each decision make in each decision has been I can talk about that in a sec because that's part really important piece of it, how I decide things based on what I've learned how to decide and what's next without getting overwhelmed by it shows that a it's like surfing the uncertainty. I used to call it surfing uncertainty, until you can get to a point where you've built enough of a boat to sail the uncertainty
Well, I think that
on the
that
leadership.
yeah, yeah, and that's I mean that's a I mean I'm learning that lesson as well in my own way, because there's no real, or I feel there's not enough of that. You know, we're all it's perfect. We have to have the whole thing tied with a big bow before we deliver it, but you're really showing the way to do things differently and keep that nervous system calm and steady, which allows your focus to remain. So, actually, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you're deciding and
Yay.
surf whatever surfing uncertainty?
Yeah, so I've embodied a 4R framework, which has become so automatic that I don't have to break it down anymore. But I break it down for people so that they can start to slow it down for themselves, so they can use the different pieces of the puzzle. So through the multiple brain integration techniques stuff that I help people with for their own transformational connections to their creativity and connection is based on M-braining or MBIT work. And so all I wanted to do was develop a system that someone could start doing that for themselves in between the sessions as well. And so, and it obviously helping me at the same time to learn how to do that. So the head brain logic, meaning if there's a freeze moment of like too much or perfection or whatever it is, or whatever that thing that wants to get done or not get done, or if there's a challenge that's like, what do I do? Could be in the moment, or how do I align my day with my bigger vision, or and often people forget about the bit in the middle
Mm.
because it's either like now or end result and how now relates to the end result, and sometimes just breaking it down to like what's the next step plus the one afterwards. So I found that really useful. Oh, there's balloons. Um, uh,
Apologies.
so if because if you just go, what's the next step? The brain can't anticipate excitement of getting that done so that we can do the next thing. And
Yeah.
so I found that just what's the next two steps is really useful. But that's just again that can be different for anyone. Sometimes that's too much or not enough for people to understand it. Um so so yeah, I go head and then go into the so it's recognize what's going on in the body if it's too challenging or what is wanted, then it's refresh. And refresh is like once it's been recognized enough to create the drive to want to change, that's the most important thing there is we can go, oh, what's next? And then go straight to forgetting about it or doing something and in hustle mode of doing rather than slowing down. So getting really present to what is actually there, even if it's like a horrible kind of feeling of I don't want to speak to that person because what am I assuming on them or they assuming on me and all that stuff. It can come up as sensitivities, as sensitive heart-centered beings. We can do that a lot with self-judgment or worrying about how other people are judging. And and so clearing that, so getting present to it enough to feel uncomfortable enough to want to do something about it, then clearing it before trying to make a decision. So clearing, uh clear with mindful techniques and tapping, It can be done with tapping the whole way through as well. If it's really strong upset, then tapping helps. So I tap through head, then into the heart, and then what's after forgetting about it enough and clearing back to neutral, then going what's truly important, heart brain, to go, how do I want to feel, what's it going to look like when it's done, and all of that stuff, and then dropping down from the heart down into the gut for taking action or non-action. Is it more rest?
Mm.
Is it more do? It's literally fight or flight or rest or digest territory to just go into and go digest that information, to go, what's the next best quick simple step with that end vision in mind, that gets excited enough to build up the drive to do, and then know that that drive will go away unless we have breaks away from trying, if it's getting too much. So it's also envisioning when to step out and step into the task to get it done, to come back out again. And that's a refining process over time. But it's it's working for me. So yeah.
Yeah, I love what you said there. You know, it's that whole body, using your whole body to manage your decisions rather than keeping it all in the head, which I think a lot of us are. That's just what we're patterned or taught to do, that this is where decisions happen. But there's a lot of wisdom other places. So I really love that model. And I've got one more question, if I may,
Yeah.
which I think you've covered, the what and the how. But I think, Rory, you've talked to maybe 24 people across this summit in the last 10 days or so. How are you managing your energy?
Yeah. It's almost like the decision making process is the management, because when I'm honoring my heart and my gut and slowing down and or just breathing and relaxing and refreshing, it's all part of a cycle of flow to get into action or not. There's a struggle phase, then there's a activate phase, there's a desire phase and a drive phase, and then a yeah, it kind of goes back, and then active recovery again. It can be all done in like 5 minutes. So m mini 5 minute breaks to do that, and or just let go. If it's more let go, or is it more what's next? And then that insight that comes from a layer of mask that comes off when relaxing is energizing, because it's like, oh yeah, it's simple. There's don't need to think of all those things. Just do this next one and the one after that. That's it. Simple. One health thing. Am I going to do one health? What health thing am I going to do today? What wealth thing am I going to do today? And what stealth thing am I going to do today? Stealth helps both of those by targeting or letting go, shedding, or targeting and communicating needs and asking for support or whatever it is. Stealth is that energy of focus and staying on it and targeting, firing the arrows. But and that could be for a health goal or a wealth goal. And so obviously there's a whole piece about getting really clear on my vision, so much so that I can say it, heart-centered neurodiverse creatives or neurocreatives, and how they show up and that bring their message to the world is is what will bolster the bit that's what's in the gap and the gift in the gap.
Gift in the gap.
Uh, and so that's how I manage it in a lot of ways. Um, Inspiration rather than aspiration so much. Aspiration is good, but it's like willpower and motivation. It can dwindle, whereas inspiration is like channeling.
I love that. I'm going to steal that with pride for my week this week, if I may.
Oh, good.
Inspiration. Inspiration, actually. And again, what a hugely positive frame to help us channel our resources. Love it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, really, I really appreciate the questions because it feels so much more natural and great to bring about. So really, really appreciate you taking the time to ask me those questions. Um, there's also the summit itself is being popped up until today, and today is like the wrap up panel celebration, but it's only wrapping up the collection of all the data. It's only a celebration of where do we go next, which is to have a celebration this evening. Um, Anyone's invited. Just come to the uh, Zoom link on the dashboard if you sign up for the rest of them, all the other speakers, and then we're going to spotlight each um, interview so that it's digestible for free for a certain amount of time, and then there's the option to keep the recordings with a VIP ticket. And there's two tiers on that too. Two tiers on the VIP tickets. One is a basic recordings only one to keep watching for those that are dedicated um to getting through all of the videos because I've got little mark off game keeping it gamified. And for those that are really want to know more, if although there's another tier which is also to do with, and the first tier is $47. I say dollars because it's a standardized thing. $87 for two personalized deep integrative workshops plus my Brilliance Without Burnout series workshops, which is anxiety flow and social anxiety flow, and also um, decision inspired decision making framework formula. And so those two are thrown in with the $87, and it's all the recordings and something else. There's a few other things on there, but I haven't even released the VIP stuff yet, so I'm still building that. But I just thought I'd mention it because that's going to be an option, so that that all fuels the being able to do it again. So even if it's just to support this and you've enjoyed it, support the project by getting one of the tickets. That would be awesome, and we will be able to do it again even longer and stronger with more feedback, more rigor and vigor.
Love it. And I love again, there's real life, putting it out there while you're still building it. I think a lot of us can learn a lot from that. So thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. What have you got from this uh,
I
session?
I phew, what have I got from this? I really You've reminded me of that whole body wisdom in decision making. Um, Again, I think, because that pops straight up. This is, the old paradigm. This is where decisions get made, and it's not actually true. And we can make our the delivery of those goals that each of us have a lot easier on ourselves by bringing in that heart and gut and really getting in touch with it. So thank you.
Amazing, amazing. Looking forward to um, seeing what unfolds from this as well. And thanks for showing up courageously, Sarah. It's
I'm
amazing.
here in
Amazing.
collaboration, Rory, which is again fun.
Yeah,
Fun.
fanatical. Amazing. All right. Thanks for watching. Any highlights, comments, questions around any of this? And watch me throw out a VIP section over the next day or so, and feedback about any of this, understandability, how it's laid out, anything to do with the summit dashboard, and I'm open to constructive feedback on anything, and why. Obviously, don't just give feedback and not say why it's important, because that's just like, oh, don't do it like that, do it like this, and but yeah,